In this video, we're going to show you how to install a fender on your Jeep Wrangler located on the front side of your vehicle. Using a T15 Torx bit, loosen and remove the two screws holding the light into the fender. We're going to be reusing these screws, so just set those aside once you get them out. You can pull that out. On the back side, you're just going to twist this counterclockwise, remove the bulb and the socket. Once you remove that, go ahead, just set that down. Now on the inside of the fender area here under the hood, you're going to locate your fuse box, and this is held in place by 4 locking tabs. You're going to use our flathead screwdriver. We're going to start at the back side here, and there's a little plastic tab you can actually pry up against the metal bracket here. Push that inward just a little bit and lift up on the fuse box, and you're going to see that that little tab stays out while you're applying upward pressure. Do the same on the other one on the other side, and you're going to see that fuse box pop up. And then let's go ahead and do the same for the front. Let's separate this bracket from our fender. There are going to be 3 10mm bolts, 2 here, 1 on the back side over here right in front of the battery. We did spray this down with some rust penetrant. Go ahead and take those 3 bolts, set those aside. Now on the side of our bracket right here, we have a connector. This has a red locking tab on it. Now we went ahead and sprayed this down with some penetrant here to try and break up some of the dirt and stuff that was in here. You want to get and pull this red lock tab back, but you got to be careful, it can break. So we're just going to use a flathead screwdriver and come on this side and give it some assistance by pushing that red lock tab back. Now the red lock tab is going to come back just a little bit, and then just behind that is going to be a little spring clip. You're going to press down and wiggle this connector off. You can use your screwdriver here again and just gently wiggle this here. Pull that bracket off, set that aside. I'm going to disconnect our battery right now. We're going to use our 13mm. I'm going to go ahead and loosen these here. Good, remove those terminals. Now normally you would have some sort of J strap. There would be 2 J hooks that came across with a metal bar across the top. Normally it could be a 10 or a 12mm nut on either side. You would loosen those, remove the bar across the top, and then the J bolts down below. This vehicle is equipped with a performance strap. And once you have that disconnected, go ahead and remove the battery from the vehicle. Now follow your wire harness on the inside of the fender, and it's going to have some plastic retainers. Go ahead and use your trim tool, get on in there. You want to go ahead and gently pry up on those there and pop these out. harness up and out of the way. And on our battery tray here, we have 3 13mm bolts. I went ahead and I sprayed those down a while ago with some rust penetrant. You want to go ahead and loosen and remove those. On the bottom side, there's going to be a little electrical connector here. There it is right here on the pigtail. I'm going to press in on this little tab and separate this harness. And then remove that battery tray from the vehicle. Now if you reach down inside here, I'm going to go ahead and pull this out, this little vacuum port, and set this box aside. Use a 13mm socket, an extension with a ratchet. Now there's a series of 4 bolts here. I'm going to try that second one down. There's a series of bolts that bolts the fender to the body. Now this bolt here we're able to get out. The 2 down below, we're going to gain access to those from underneath the vehicle. All right, now that we have those bolts loose, we're going to go ahead and remove that. With the vehicle up in the air, we want to go ahead and continue to remove our wiring harness from the fender. We're going to do the same thing with our trim tool. Get behind the little plastic button, pop that out. And then there's one down in the front here. Do the same there. If you want, come on over to the back side of our marker light here. Twist that out. And let that harness just dangle down for now. Now there are 3 bolts normally here that go into the back side of your grill. We're missing a bolt right here, and these 2 are loose already. I'm going to continue to loosen and remove these bolts. Now sometimes these bolts have a tendency to break. Try not to break them. If you have to, you can use a little bit of heat, use some rust penetrant, whatever you need to do, but it's best not to break them off. But hey, sometimes it just happens. Now we just removed the bolts on the back side of the grill. Now if you follow it up to the front side here, there are 3 more 13mm bolts going into the grill as well. We use our 13mm socket and extension. Loosen and remove these. Now what I'm going to do on this last bolt on the top, I'm not going to remove it all the way. I'm going to loosen it quite a bit, but this last bolt is going to be securing the front side of the fender while we take apart the rest of the bolts on the back side. All right, so we'll leave that in a portion of the way now. Let's move to the back side. Now there are 4 bolts right here. We did spray them down with some rust penetrant. Loosen and remove all 4 of these. We'll use our 18mm socket to loosen and remove the lug nuts, and then we'll pull the wheel off. There's a 7mm screw that goes through the horizontal body splash guard here, goes through to this clip here. We want to go ahead and remove that screw because this does go through the fender. There's the clip, and there's your screw. Now from the bottom side here, we'll go ahead and loosen and remove these two last fender bolts. Now keep in mind, this is the last bolt holding the fender to the body or the tub. And we have our wire harness here that we disconnected previously. We're going to go ahead and pop the connector off of our bulb. And we're going to feed this harness up through the hole in the fender and going to pull it up into the engine compartment. Now we have this last bolt going through the grill. We're going to loosen and remove this while supporting the fender in place. Now when we remove our fender, don't forget that it is behind this splash guard right here. So we're going to lift up on the fender and pull this out of here. On the inside of the fender, we're going to have our splash guard here. It's just held in place with plastic push pins. You're going to use your trim tool to remove these buttons. Some of these may break, so you might have to source some of these locally, but pop those out. On this side right here, we're going to have a 15mm nut. That goes through to the hood latch on the other side. Now our fender flare is held onto our fender using 7mm screws going through all the way around the top, around the front edge of the fender, and on the back side of this here, there's a couple as well. I'm going to go ahead and loosen and remove those. Now you may experience some of these breaking like ours. You will just have to source some of these here. They are rusted. I'm going to separate our fender flare. Now we're going to hang our fender. When we install this here, I'm going to install one bolt on the body side or the tub, and then one bolt on the grill side. Doesn't matter which one you get installed. However, we're going to tackle it from the inside here on the tub, throw one in here, support the fender, and then get one on the front. Now we don't have any of our trim accessories on here. No splash guard, no fender flare, no hood latch, none of that stuff. Slide this up. So we have this worked over our shock tower in the middle. We have the fender lining up on the inside. Now it's going to take a little bit of persuasion here and there just to get things pushed around into place. That's just the nature of the beast with that. Push that down. I'm going to get one of these bolts back through the fender and into the tub. I'm just going to thread that in as far as I can by hand, but I'm going to leave it loose. I don't want to bottom that out. I want to have that adjustability to move this around. Now go ahead and install your bolts on the back side of the grill here. Once again, leaving these loose. You can go ahead and do all three. Now we're going to go ahead and install our bolts on the front side. It will require a little bit of persuading. Go ahead and get your bolts in there. Now at this point, we want to go ahead and get our 4 bolts in here. This is going to require a little manipulation here, moving that fender around. Just want to get those bolts started. Now here's a point where you can go ahead and line up the body line right here. Just kind of tweak that a little bit, get that to line up. We're going to go back up on the top, finish putting those bolts in, and then we can go ahead and start tightening all of our hardware down. And go ahead and get our bolts in here. We have our screw to go through the splash guard here. And then put our clip on. So our fender is pretty much lined up exactly where we want it, so it's safe to go ahead and secure this into place. Now you just want to snug this down gently. Once it bottoms out, just give it a little bit more, and that's it. Now let's snug down our bolts. Snug down the front 3. Now we have our 3 bolts on the back side of our grill. Go ahead and tighten those down. And repeat for the other 2. Let's go ahead and tighten down these 2 lower bolts. And let's go up to the top and get those. Now go ahead and tighten down the 2 upper bolts. Make sure your fender is still lining up nicely, and ours is. Snug that in, and repeat for that last one on top. Go ahead and feed your wire harness through the fender. On the back side of our original fender, the 2 little white clips, these are screw retainers for the front light. You just want to pinch these little tabs and push them through the front. And we're going to swap these over into the new fender. Now on the top of the fender, you want to go ahead and swap over your hood latch. That is going to go right here. There's going to be 2 plastic nubs that go in the 2 forward holes, and then the stud goes through the back side. Simply install the washer and the nut on the bottom side, and we're going to snug that down. Now on the forward side right here is where the rubber bumper would be for when you bring the hood down, it'll hit your rubber bumper. Go ahead and swap that over, install that in there. Install the front light. I'm just going to get that screw started, a couple threads, hold the light in place, and then we'll get the other one installed. Once we get both of these screws started, we can go ahead and snug those down. Now you just gently want to snug those down lightly. Once that bottoms out, that's it. You don't even want to go too much tighter than bottoming that out. Here we go. Take your light bulb here, insert that in. Twist that into place. Go ahead and bring that harness over. Go ahead and line that up on the back of that bulb. And go ahead and snap that onto the back of that bulb. On the inside here, we have the little plastic retainer button. We want to pop that into the fender hole here. Now with your fender filler lined up on the fender, we're going to go ahead and install our hardware. We're going to keep this loose until we get the rest of our hardware at least started, and then we'll come back and snug everything down. Yeah, let's finish up by snugging down our last piece of hardware here. Install the bulb into the back of the outer light here. And once that's in place, go ahead and install your little retainer button into the fender. Don't forget to install your fender liner here. You're going to tuck that in. Go ahead and line up your buttons with the holes going around. Tap your retaining buttons in. Now you're going to continue this process throughout, lining this up until you get all of your buttons installed. We're now going to go ahead and lower down our module into the fender. There's a little tab down below. Press that down into place. You want to go ahead and get our nut bolt hardware installed here. It's going to come up through the bottom side of the fender. And go ahead and install that, and we'll snug it down. Yours might be a little bit different. We had some broken hardware on our component here. Now that we have our component anchored to the inside of the fender, we'll go ahead and install our battery tray. On the bottom of your battery tray, you have the electrical connector here. Press that together and lower the tray down into position. Go ahead and line up those tabs. And go ahead and get your bolt started. Now we did run our bolts through the wire wheel machine, and unfortunately we had to replace all 3 of our mounting clips here because, well, they were broken beyond usable condition, so we sourced some of those there. Let's go ahead and snug down those bolts. Lower our battery down into position. Then once you have your battery in position, you now want to go ahead and install the J bolts that come up out of the side of either side of the tray. They'll come up to a crossbar. Ours is missing that at this current time, but you want to go ahead and definitely install something to secure that battery. Now on the top side of the fender, you want to reinstall your fuse block bracket. Should be 3 bolts for this here. And then once you have these all in, you're going to drive them down, leaving it loose just a little bit. Then we'll get to our back bolts here. Go ahead and snug all 3 of these down. Once you have your bracket installed there, let's go ahead and bring the fuse block down and over. Line this up. Push that down into place. You want to go ahead and install the connector. Be sure to, once this clicks on, be sure to press the red locking tab into position. Here we go. You can run the light harness through inside the fender. Press that into place. Install your battery terminals. I want to make sure that these are snug. Install the ground terminal. Make sure that that is nice and snug. Go ahead and lower down your hood into position. Go ahead and install your hood latches. Go ahead and grab your wheel. install the lug nuts. I'm going to get all these started by hand first, and then we'll come back and snug them down. With the vehicle lowered down to the ground, we're going to go ahead and torque down our lug nuts to 85 foot-pounds. You're all set.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.